Yes, thanks for staying with us. We promised to get this gentleman back. Of course, he was a legend of the AFL, the VFL. We talk about none other than Murray Weideman. Murray, thanks for coming back.
It's a pleasure.
Mate, you wouldn't believe how many people have asked, can you get Murray back? And we said, well, we can get him back as much as you like. It's a question of whether he wants to or not. We talked about your grand final wins. How many finals did you play in?
I played in 20 finals in total. That's semi-finals, second semis and grand finals. I played in 5 grand finals and won 2, lost 3. So that was 53. I was only 17 then. Wow. And then 1958 I was captain. I was only 22 then. So they're the 2 ones that stand out in my mind now.
They always say the first one is special, the first winning one is special. Yeah, is that the case?
That was the case, because I think I spoke about riding my bike up to the...
Well, that was pretty special.
Yeah, the only bloke
that was unique.
Ride bike to a grand final. You'd think they got a limo for you, wouldn't you? Well, they didn't.
The other unique part was that you managed to get a date 2 minutes before the game ended by asking a girl over the fence.
Yeah, Joan Gard, her name was. And I never told that story for 50 years. I did it at the Carbine Club over in Melbourne. And a lot of memories. And I went out, as I said, I went out to her place where she lived. And the amazing part of the story that her maiden name was Joan Gard, and she married a Buckley, so she became Joan Buckley then.
But no relation to...
But no relation to Nathan, right.
You were good enough to bring some photos in with you on this journey in to get interviewed by us again. Now, the first one, we have a look at Kids in the Street. Did you spend a lot of time? I mean, you were such a big name in Melbourne, and Collingwood's such a powerful footy club.
Yeah, I did. I used to love to go out on Sunday morning and I'd have a kick with all the kids in the street. I see a little girl there with the ball, but most of them were just the boys. They'd get end to end. We put 2 little goal posts in the street, because in those days there were no Holden cars or Ford cars in those days, so we put 2 boxes up that end and 2 boxes up that end, and off we go and kick the ball and play a little game.
It's amazing how it's evolved these days, where is the AFL for the kids coming through is such a big...
mini league.
It's a big way to introduce them. But in our day, and in my day, and I've got a
few years younger, across the road.
Yeah, you'd play on the street every single week. You'd have the driveways with the goals at opposite ends. Times have changed these days.
Yes, they have, and you've kicked it in someone's backyard or something, and Mrs. So-and-so would come out, "You're not having your football back." You know, and I thought, oh, God, here we go. Yeah. But anyhow, I always had a couple of reserve. Tom Sheeran was very good to me. If I went to hospital to see kids, I had to call around to Wellington Street. And
so this is the Sheeran?
Tom Sheeran,
wow.
He's dead and passed on now. And he'd always say, "Murray, for anyone that's in hospital, there's always a football there."
Wow, what a good man.
So he was. So he was a great man, Tom Sheeran.
Murray, you touched on it there. You spent a lot of time visiting kids in hospital, didn't you?
Yeah, I did, yes. Well, because we had the shops, see. I never had a real job. I used to get up and do a paper round in the morning, then I'd open one of the shops, and then I'd open the grocer shop, and then off to school I'd go. But I'd always go if I was ever asked to do anything for any kids in hospital which had, rheumatic fevers or polio or anything like that, I would be there.
Mate, you seem like a ripping fellow. It's hard to believe over the course of your career you would have had threats on your life.
I've had a lot of threats in my life, but as I said, that once I crossed that boundary line, I was a different bloke. I wasn't normal, because I played to win at all costs. And I was only reported twice in Victoria, and it was against Eric Guy. I got 4 weeks for that, and Jack Clark, I broke his nose. I should have got 6 weeks.
So what was it with the bullet hole going through the window?
That was through the shops, our shops. That was on a Friday night before a Carlton game. There was a bullet when I got up in the morning, and I thought, oh, I better ring up and tell the insurance companies that someone's put a bullet through one of the shop's windows. And next thing, the media got hold of it. So the media are out there doing these shoots of the bullets through there. And then I had a couple of really frightening times. The Carlton one, when I got there, I didn't know. There was 3 policemen behind me, one either side and one behind me, escorting me in, because there had been threats on my life in that part of that story.
Okay.
But the Hawthorn one that really did frighten me, they said before you get to the game tomorrow at Glenferrie Oval, there'll be a bullet through you. Now that didn't. It was one of those voices you do get worried about. Like
Yes.
it's like me now. I've probably a lot of places in the world I've been in planes, but I'll never fly out of Australia ever again because I'm frightened.
Really? Yeah.
And as someone said, how old is he? And there was an argument, I think, last week. Is he 72 or 82? No,
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm 80 next February.
Yeah.
So that clears
80,
that up.
80 years of age, gee, and you're still sprightly and you're
Well,
still...
I do my walk every morning
Yeah,
to
good
go
on you.
and get the paper, and I come back and I read that, and I've got a bad back. I wear a brace, but I can still, do this and do that. But
Well, keeping fit is always part of any sportsman's makeup, I guess. But one that I'm interested in is a footballer's diet, because over the years that has changed significantly. In your day, as the Buddy Franklin of the league, the most elite, one of the most elite players in the competition.
Yeah.
What was your week made up of?
I went for a 5-mile run on Tuesday night training.
Yes.
I'd try and con the coach and say, I want to go for a road run, because once you can handball, you can kick a ball, you can do all these things. You don't need some bloke coming along to tell you how to kick it this way or do it that way or something. So Ray Gablick and I and Mike Delaney and Hooker Harrison would be the 4 wild blokes. Off they'd go for a 5-mile run, and it was great because Hooker was a good runner. I was probably the slowest of the lot. The Bear, that's Ray Gablick. Yeah. He was good, and Hooker Harrison and I and Mike Delaney. Mike was pretty quick, Mike Delaney. Yeah. So off they'd lead, then they'd drag me along.
And what about from a dietary perspective? Because I think when as I was growing up, it was the steak and chips on a Friday night, and then that's changed.
It was basically you just grab whatever the other players did, you would do. So I'd always have 2 poached eggs in the morning at 7 o'clock. Yeah. Then I get up and I go for a run around the streets, bouncing a ball for about half an hour. Yeah. Then I come home and Mum would have a steak at 11, a little steak for 11:30 for me.
Oh, well done.
So you did the same things. Yeah. I never wore a black and white tie to any game. I always wore the opposition's colours.
Really?
Yeah, just to upset them. And then I would get a lift because I didn't have a licence when I first started playing league football. So I had a mate of mine to pick me up and run me to the Collingwood ground. So I did, and I'd be terrified if I put my socks on inside out, if you understand what I mean.
Yes.
Because that's it, taboo, see? So I thought, oh, God, I've made a mistake. So, yes, I'm superstitious. Yes, everything I did.
What about the water now, Murray? I mean, back then there was a period where they said they didn't want you drinking water during the game because it was no good for you. Now we see trainers going out every time they touch the footy, they've got to have a drink of water.
Well, I believe you do. You dehydrate about a stone in weight, you do, so that's a loss of water. But in my days, I'd come in at quarter time, I'd always have a bottle of soda water, a little bottle of soda water, and half time I'd have another soda water. But they didn't. They come in, the silly part about it, they come in with one towel in the dressing room and the trainer would wipe your face, transfer your germs to the next bloke. They'd all finish up with the flu then. And I thought, things that we did that you wouldn't do today.
Yeah.
Before
we go to a break, I want to ask you about this picture, 1956 at the Lawn Hotel that was taken. It sat in a camera for 50 years. There's some pretty big names in that photo. Yeah,
I'll tell you the names and I'll explain how it happened. My mother, who lived up in Fairfield, my father passed away in 1963, and she then moved to Frankston. My brother was a chemist, he had a chemist shop down Frankston, so Mum moved. So she took the camera, this old Browning camera, with her, and then she passed on in the 75s, the 80s. And we went through all her stuff and that, and we found this little Brownie camera. So I opened it up, and as the film was still in the camera, this is 50 years later, and so I go to get it developed, and there it comes up there. They showed that before. Here is myself as my 20th birthday party at Ron Todd's Pacific Hotel at Lorne.
Wow.
So if I ever wanted to get away, I'd always go down to Toddy's pub, and he always had number 9 room for me. So there, and that's Ron Todd there, Jack Regan, the great Jack Regan. This is in 1956. Teddy Rippon played with Essendon. Jackie Jones played with Essendon. Jack Mueller played with Melbourne.
And is that Jack Dyer?
And that's Jack Dyer next door.
Yeah.
How about that?
Oh, 20 years of age, you're hanging out with some pretty good company. We're going to go to a break. When we come back, Murray's been good enough to stay with us. We're going to ask him about some of the great players that he played against and played with. Stay with us.